If there's one phrase that sums up 2020 so far, it's what the future. Many of us imagine we are marching boldly into the future. But actually, we can't often see what's coming right at us. It's almost as if we're standing with our backs to the future. So how do we prepare for the unexpected and the unforeseeable future? By studying what's staring right back at us. The past. Now, given today's context, you may expect me to be talking about the Black Death or the Spanish flu, but I believe that what better way to look at how to deal with the unexpected than to talk about an unexpected topic. The D-Day landings in Normandy on June 6, 1944. Why? Because as a young history student, the World War II generation, whether they were civilians, soldiers, Holocaust survivors, they taught me that no matter what unexpected or unwanted things life throws your way, you choose your response. And D-Day is the perfect example of how to respond to an unwanted and seemingly impossible situation. And we've certainly seen our share of impossible situations this year. That's why I want to offer you D-Day lessons for today to help you learn how to create your future history. That's right. Your future history is created through your actions today. Our future history is created through our actions today. Now, I've written about 10 D-Day lessons, but today I'm going to talk to you about 3. And we're going to start with the most basic one that talks about really our mindset. And that is lesson number 1. History is full of people doing the impossible. Yeah, history is full of people doing the impossible. So let's turn back the pages to January of 1943. Now, Hitler had unexpectedly invaded and then was now occupying most of Europe at this time. Stalin was busy fighting what would be one of the bloodiest battles in the war in Stalingrad, and he was demanding that the Western Allies open a second front to divide Hitler's forces. Churchill and Roosevelt decided to meet in Casablanca, and it's here at the Casablanca Conference that it's the first time they openly commit to making a cross-channel invasion. Sure, William the Conqueror had done so in 1066, but what the Allies would be attempting was on a scale that had never been seen before in history. And at the time, in January of 1943, circumstances didn't seem like this was going to be a possible thing to do. The German U-boats were winning in the Battle of the Atlantic. The Allies didn't have the air supremacy that they would need for a successful landing. They didn't even have the technology needed to land and supply an army on the beaches. But I guess they listened to Eleanor Roosevelt, who had told them, "You must do the things you think you cannot do." You must do the things you think you cannot do. And so, here are Churchill and Roosevelt, sitting in the sun, talking to the press, committing to making that cross-channel invasion despite current circumstances. Why? Because they knew history is full of people doing the impossible, and circumstances can change. So, lesson number 1. Identify your current version of impossible. And once you've done that, then you can move on to lesson number 2. Know what you stand for. Yeah, know what you stand for. Because pursuing the impossible, it requires dedication and perseverance. If you don't know why, you may never try. Now, venturing out into the unknown, it's scary. And if you know why you're doing something, it makes it easier to keep moving alongside your fear. It can even help you make fun of it. Churchill certainly knew the power of humor when he said, "If you're going through hell, keep going." Declaring what you stand for also helps you, it helps others stand with you. And there is power in numbers. So, you've identified your current version of impossible, lesson number 1. And you know what you stand for, lesson number 2. So now you can move to lesson number 3. To get good answers, ask good questions. To get good answers, ask good questions. Walls have been built throughout history out of fear, anger, insecurity, but they rarely stand the test of time. Hitler tried to defend the entire coast of Europe with his Atlantic Wall. Can walls be made obsolete? If the Allies' first challenge was to land an army on the beaches, the second would be to supply that army. They needed a port. But in the failed raid on the port of Dieppe in 1942, the Allies realized they would never be able to seize a port and keep it operational at the same time. Well, so I guess they're just going to have to bring one with them. Wait, bring a port with them? Like drag it across the channel? Yeah, that's exactly what Churchill, who is renowned for his creative thinking, framed perfectly in this memo. Let me have the best solution worked out. Don't argue the matter. The difficulties will argue for themselves. Wow. He's not asking if it's possible. He's asking how. And so, operational just 3 days after D-Day, Port Winston was set up off the coast of Arromanches. It was an incredible engineering feat. They brought in old battleships that they sunk to create breakwaters. They built cement caissons multiple stories high, and dragged them across the channel. And the technology used to create the platforms that would rise up and down with the tide, that technology is still used today in oil platforms out at sea. The wreckage of old caissons sits off the coast of Arromanches today, a testament to the power of creative thinking. No matter how high or wide a wall is, there is always a way to move past it. Walls are made obsolete by open minds asking good questions. There will always be impossible situations. So what happens when you replace "can I" with "how can I"? Suddenly, the impossible becomes possible. I never met a veteran or a civilian who wanted the war to break out. it was as welcomed as the global pandemic has been today. Because, we plan, we build, we imagine, and then a wave of life comes rushing over us, and all we can do is try to keep our head above water. I mean, how do we keep up with our daily needs? How can we find joy amidst the chaos? Step back, gain perspective, study history. Think about which stories you want to be remembering later in life. And how does that influence then the choices you're making today? I offer you 3 questions to use as a compass, because it's not about finding the answers, but really living the questions over and over and over. 1, what's your current version of impossible? 2, what do you stand for? And 3, what happens when you replace "can I" with "how can I"? People say history repeats itself, but I say it rhymes. We create our future history. So what will you do with your time?